Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Mental Edge. My name is Stacy Goodrich, and I'm happy to see everybody today. I'm really excited to bring on Izzy. Izzy and I have known each other a long time, and I just want to, Izzy, I want to share your story. You've taught me a lot of things over the last 10 years, at least, probably
Yeah, I think 10 or 12, something like that.
12 years that I've known you and have been working with you. And you've taught me a ton because we started kind of at the same time when I was working at Twin City Twisters, and you were just a little itty bitty Izzy. So tell us a little bit about you and where you started and about your career.
Yeah, so I've been doing gymnastics since I was 4. I started in little rec classes and immediately fell in love with the sport. And I just thought it was so cool that I could do things that 99% of the population couldn't do. And I fell in love with like the competitive aspect of the sport. And I met some of my best friends, and it just has such a tight-knit community. And I transferred over to Twin City Twisters about age 9. I started as a level 6 there. I did 1 year there. Then I quickly got through level 7. I only had to do 2 meets. And then I did 1 year of level 8, 2 years of level 9, and 5 years of level 10. And when I was 16, I committed to a Division 1 university to continue gymnastics there. And throughout the entire process in college, I've accomplished pretty much every single goal I ever set for myself, which I never thought I could, but I did. Um, so I'm definitely ending gymnastics on a high note, and I have so many people to thank for that. And obviously, Stacy, you're one of them. You were like my biggest resource mentally. That changed the game for me, and it really just changed the trajectory of my entire career. So,
Well, thank you, Izzy. Um, you know what I I don't know if this is accurate for you, but Twin City Twisters was really a special gym.
hmm
Special and very difficult at the same time. And I don't know about you, but you were probably not the most talented kid.
no.
And you know, they had a belief system to die for. Like I remember starting when I was um you were probably about 7 when I started working with the girls because I think Olivia was about 9. Um, and um, And I'll never forget it. Mike was like, I don't really know what to do. I don't really get it, but they like it and it seems to be working. And if it didn't work, we wouldn't have you.
Yeah.
He held an expectation and a standard for himself and everybody involved in that gym that was like no other.
hmm
And I didn't realize that what that did was create a belief in top down. Every single person that was a part of that program knew that they had a job to do. They held themselves to that high standard and they would figure out how to get you guys where you needed to be.
hmm
And that level of expectation and high regard and that respect for that, I see in you.
hmm
And it hasn't always been easy
No.
because when you have a high standard for yourself and people around you don't, that can be annoying.
Yeah, very.
you know? And so can you maybe give me an experience for you where you knew you had that and maybe where you struggled with not necessarily with people around you, but with your you knew you could do something, but maybe somebody didn't believe in you, or can you just explain that that really high expectation that you have to do your best and to be your best?
Yeah. So to be honest with you, I didn't appreciate anything TCT did for me until I was no longer there. And they instilled so much trust in me and faith in me in a weird way, because they didn't just, say you can do this and I just automatically believed I could do it. It's like they almost didn't give you the option. It's like I loved TCT because, like you said, I was not the most talented kid in there, but something I did have was the desire to be better. And honestly, if you didn't have that, you couldn't be at TCT. And I loved competing against girls that were better than me. And I loved training every single day with girls that were better than me because until I was at their level, I wasn't ever satisfied with what I was doing. And that is just something that I crave in my everyday life. And I'd say the hardest transition to college gymnastics was joining a team of girls that, number one, I had no idea where they came from, what their morals and values were at their gym, how they trained, and what they wanted out of their experience. Because I knew what I wanted. I wanted to win and I wanted to be one of the best girls on that team. But it was weird because for a while I felt like there was not that same level of competition within the team. I found it really hard for me to find girls where I was like, I want to be better than them. I want to, I want to do all of these things, but it's like I looked over to my right and my left and I never really saw anybody there with me on the same level in terms of that work ethic. And I think by me like giving off that vibe in the gym, a lot of girls throughout my 4 years at my school started to kind of come to that level with me a little bit more. And it's almost like I inspired girls to have that mentality in the gym every single day and kind of instill the winner mentality in my college.
You know, and you're absolutely right. There is an expectation, like a high, I want to be my best mentality at TCT, and it wasn't always easy because you had people that were really good.
Mhm.
You know, you know, they they not only took kids locally and created a TCT kid, but they brought kids in that were super talented from all over that they didn't train, but they were so good that you were constantly competing against all of them, right? But what you did with it, Izzy, was you were able to own that for yourself. Because at some point, you're right, you're not going to have a world of people like that in your situation. And if you don't figure out how to stay connected, have a goal beyond the goal for yourself, stay connected to what you want, then you would have succumbed to that. You would have settled. And
Mhm.
that's not what you did. You required everybody to step up, even though we worked on that and it was frustrating for you to not have that natural ability. Why doesn't everybody do that? They don't
Mhm.
believe in themselves. They don't, because the other thing that you taught me was that your physical talent was here. And then we had to work mentally to match it. Once
Mhm.
you mentally were able to match your talent went here.
Mhm.
Like we didn't even know what your potential was. And and that's what that belief in yourself brought you to college, to be a leader, to leave a legacy, to be able to you know, focus on being your best within the system and within your situation. And you have been an all-rounder for what, 4 years?
Um, yeah, basically.
And and really done, like you said, over and beyond what you thought you could do.
Yeah.
And I'm not surprised at that you were so successful within your situation. Um, but belief can be taught and confidence can be taught. And
Mhm.
people need to know that even if they're not in a situation where they don't have that built in, that there are strategies and a way to manage that and to work with that. Um, because we had to figure it out from there.
Yeah.
We had to build on that and make sure you had a way to be successful beyond TCT.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, and I love that about your potential too, because I don't think anybody understands how they can maximize their own potential,
Mhm.
but mentally being able to be strong enough to wrap your head around what you can do physically Does that make sense? Can you describe that for you? Is there an experience that you can relate to when I say that about you?
Yeah, so I always have said I peaked with my gymnastics career right around the end of my sophomore year of high school. Like, I think, like you said, I finally matched my mental capacity and mental strength up to my physical ability. And it wasn't easy. It was a lot of trial and error for me. But I would say regionals, my sophomore year of high school, I just hit everything. Like, I will never forget that meet. I did exactly what I was supposed to do. And I feel like something that really helped me is you always say, like, nobody does your gymnastics better than you do. So you can be confident in that. And that's so true. And I say that to the girls all the time at school. Like,
Mm.
nobody does your routine better than you. So own it. Own the good, the bad, the mistakes, and learn from it. And also once I hit that point in high school, I was so intentional with every movement I was doing. I was feeling every toe point and every element, even though it might have not been perfect, I was still feeling it. And that in turn gave my mind a job to do so my body could just do what it knew how to do. Like, I didn't need to put any extra pressure on myself anymore or stress out about a routine I've done 100 times. I was finally at the point where I could just sit back, relax, and let my body do what it knew how to do.
And what a explanation of that, right? What you've also taught me, Izzy, is that every high level athlete has to master the ability to separate the sport from who they are.
Mhm.
You have to be able to be hard on yourself, but not be mad at yourself.
Mhm.
Because if you're mad at yourself, then you're stuck in the problem. If you're celebrating the win, then you're stuck in the success. You're not equal to either of them. It doesn't mean we can't celebrate success. Obviously, we want to have a goal beyond the goal to celebrate with ice cream or whatever, after a meet. But you've done an amazing job at mastering the ability to not take things personal so that you can keep learning, keep building, keep growing, keep being better for you 1/10 at a time. And nobody can get through Division 1 gymnastics without the ability to figure out that for themselves to be their best.
Mhm.
And TCT definitely laid a really thick groundwork, if that makes sense for you. But you had to do it on your own when you got to college and beyond college. And so, knowing that you can do whatever you want to do within what you want to do, how have you taken that beyond gymnastics?
Um, that's a really good question. I think something that I've always lived by the minute I stepped in to my university as a freshman was I want to get everything out of this university as it's getting out of me, and vice versa with gymnastics. Like, I want to get everything out of gymnastics, what it's getting out of me. And I did a pretty good job of this in club too, because I remember there were some practices where they were really hard and I was suffering and every day, most days were not pretty. But it's almost like I had like an alter ego where as soon as I stepped into the gym, I would tap into that and nothing else mattered. And that's the one thing that I love about gymnastics is it puts everything, all life's real issues into perspective for me, and it's my one chance a day to escape from those. But then when I exit the gym, I put all of my gymnastics aside and I step into like my real life, like person Isabella. And I feel like I've done an exceptional job with that strategy in college as well, because I've been able to use all of the life lessons gymnastics has taught me into becoming a better person, into becoming a hard worker, putting them into my studies, motivating me to get a job, which I now have. And I'm super happy that I do because I know a lot of people in my position about to graduate college, sometimes they don't have a job. But since gymnastics and TCT has instilled all of these values into me, I was able to harness them and really just create my ideal future. And it's the best feeling ever because I am more than a gymnast. And I've always known that, but now I'm using everything gymnastics has taught me to really build my future. And it's a really great feeling.
And speaking of that, I know we briefly talked about this before, but you taught me a long time ago that when people have a high level of stress and pressure on their body can take a toll.
Mhm.
And in October every year, you used to get sick. And then we would work on it. We would, because you got to get ready for season, and then there's stress, and it would be this pattern every year. And it got worse and worse.
Mhm.
And every person has to understand how to work with that in a way that they can take care of their body without their body breaking down, whether it be through stress fractures or pneumonia or anything like that. But I think it's really important for people to understand that it is a thing.
Mhm.
This does happen. And so for you, what was that experience and how did you figure that out for yourself?
Yeah, so like you said, every preseason around October, even in college, this still would like creep up on me a little bit, but I'd usually nip it in the butt before it got too bad. But I would get sick or I would have a nagging pain somewhere. And I am one of those gymnasts in one of those rare cases where I've never had an injury where it was like a quick onset, like something happened. It was always like that subtle buildup. And when I was little, I didn't know how to work with it and I didn't know how to stay in my body and kind of heal from within. So I think that's something that you really helped me realize was when I'm at practice, when I'm in the chalk bucket, getting like gripping up or whatever, those are the times where I need to like start healing from within. I was able to figure out that I can take deep breaths during that time, or I can ask myself, what do I need to do today to get through today's practice? Or what do I need to talk to my coaches today to tell them where I'm at? And I think that was something huge when I did go to college is I had the confidence to go to my coaches and say, hey, mate, I have this nagging pain, whatever. I'm working through it. It's not a big deal, but this is kind of what I need right now. And based on what they have seen and what they've learned about me, I was one of those gymnasts that maybe I didn't need 5 routines that day. Maybe I only needed two, but maybe the girl next to me needed 5 routines. So it's kind of like a case by case basis.
Mhm.
And so I was just so confident in myself reading my body that I'm able to have those conversations with, my coaches or whoever. But you really did teach me how to stay in my body and heal from within during my day.
Well, you taught me that we needed a way to manage that because you weren't gonna, because what happens is if people have this idea, they get injured and then they come back stronger. Well, there's a success pattern that has a negative component in it that
Mhm.
over time doesn't work.
Yeah.
And so if we don't figure out how to be successful without the negative component, it takes people out of their sport. And it happens all the time. And so we needed a solution for that because you were like a level 9 when and you were little. We were like, okay, this can't be the pattern because it's just going to get worse. And I
Yeah.
knew that. And so you taught me we figured that out. And I've helped hundreds of people I was just talking to a gymnast today, a boy who's got wrist issues. He's super talented, but didn't know how to be in his body, you know? And so now all the injuries are kind of falling away as he understands more. But we were just talking about that today.
Yeah.
Really, really helpful. Izzy, another thing you taught me is you have been extremely successful in some really difficult situations
Mhm.
in your life in gymnastics. And I think that, nobody would have said to you, um, if you decided to quit or if you decided you didn't want to deal with it in the 10, 12, since you were 4, nobody would have said that it would have been a bad idea. You've been victimized, you've been, you know, had issues. And I don't use that word lightly.
Mhm.
Um, but at the end of the day, you were successful no matter what.
Mhm.
And so can you just share with people how you did that?
Yeah. So I, the last 4 years have been up and down for sure with a lot of different things. But I feel like something that I've always asked myself during those hard times is, at TCT, I would ask myself all the time, what kind of legacy do you want to leave? What do you want to be remembered as? And I asked myself the same thing today in college is like, what legacy do I want to leave for these girls? What impact do I want to leave on this program? And when I'm going through like a questionable time or I have a nagging thought in my mind of like, should I go this way? Should I go this way? I always ask myself that question because I am not equal to the sport. And I owe a lot of like those, relentless qualities when it comes to pushing for what I think is right to TCT. But that's the main question that I'm always asking myself is, what kind of legacy do you want to leave here? Maybe I'm not the girl in college that goes 9-9 every time I'm up on an apparatus, but I think I'm remembered for more important things, in my opinion. And that's what I want the girls to remember me as.
And, leaving a legacy is such a valuable strategy to give them because transitions are not easy for anybody. And when somebody has been a gymnast your entire life, training every single day your entire life, it's one of those things where if you're leaving a legacy, it keeps you connected and it keeps you in your body through the salute, through the end. And it allows you to do it for something bigger than you, which is your legacy. But if you can give that to them and teach them how to do that for themselves, not only are you going to help them be their best, but you're going to be left fulfilled, through gymnastics, and you can use that for the rest of your life. And so that's such a great quality that you have that you're giving to them.
Mhm.
So what advice would what's maybe and I love it that you were able to stay in your A circle and not get kicked out of your body when you were going through some of those hard things, because I know how easier it would have been to not be in your A circle and to be victim of those. Um, but what advice would you give? What strategy did you rely on? What was something that kept you able to be your best no matter what?
100% the first thing that comes to my mind is what I brought up earlier of nobody does your gymnastics like you do. And I think that's so powerful because it's so true. I mean, it is physically impossible for somebody to do the same make, the same model, the same technique, especially when you get to college. You'll see it a lot more. And I think that's why I was so confident in that strategy during my years of competing in college because nobody could do what I did only because there's only one me. And that just resonated so much, especially like my sophomore year of college when I really, really took off. And I basically checked off every single goal I had ever had as a freshman that year. Um, I was just so confident in my ability. Not because I knew I was the best gymnast on the team, it's because I knew nobody could do my routine better than I could. And I think also when I was struggling with like injuries or, maybe I was having a rough day outside of the gym, I like giving my mind a job to do while I just let my body flow through the routine. So if that means I'm really struggling on bars today, I'm really sore, but I'm gonna get through it. I'm gonna point my toes as hard as I can. That's all I'm thinking about the entire routine. And then next thing you know, you're on the mat saluting. You're like, whoa, I just did that. Didn't even think about it. And you got through it and you made a correction while doing it. So I would catch myself doing that a lot, especially like I said in college when it's really quality over quantity, whereas TCT, my strategies might have varied a little bit just based on the numbers we had to do, but those are my two biggest strategies or words of advice, I guess.
Yes, so helpful. Um, did you ever imagine when you were 7? And I already know the answer. I know that at 7 years old, you knew you were gonna be a college gymnast, you
Mhm.
know? Like, you guys were just built. I don't were you on, like, for Olivia, and I know this is probably true for you, she was never not on a state winning team,
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
know? One of your teammates always won state, or you did. One of your teammates or you won regionals, was always in the top, you know, national team. Um, and so we're coming from that. And what advice, is there anything else maybe for parents? Um, what advice would you give to either your younger self or to parents or both?
I'd say to my younger self to never, like, never give up on what you believe in. Like, if you think something is wrong or you think something is right, like, those feelings are real. And maybe you can't change it, but you can reevaluate it. And I feel like there were moments in club, especially, and especially in college. Don't sell yourself short either. That's my other biggest thing is like don't sell yourself short. You know what you're capable of and only you know what you're capable of and you can be confident in that. And I think for parents, definitely just letting like enjoying the experience with your gymnast, with whoever your child is, and kind of letting them go through the growing pains. Maybe you just need to sit there and listen. Maybe they don't want advice. Maybe you just sit back and listen and kind of help them go through this process. Um, but
I
yeah,
remember your mother one time, she said to me, "Oh, I gave Izzy a really good goal beyond the goal." And I'm like, "Oh, what?" And she goes, "I told her I'd give her $1,000."
Mhm.
I was like, "Are you crazy?" Like,
Yeah,
I go, "That's not a great goal beyond the goal. I'm not doing that for my daughter. Your daughter's gonna tell my
yeah,
daughter."
yeah, yeah. That's what I
And
mean though. Like you need to let your child figure it out for themselves. Like they need to figure out what's best for them, what their goal beyond the goal is, what that looks like to them, and kind of just sit back and watch.
I'm sure that worked for you.
Yeah, I mean it did. I can't even lie, it really did.
She
But
did know you, and
yeah,
and
she
I
knows
knew that
it.
was gonna work too, but I'm like,
Yeah.
we're not setting this as a precedent. We're gonna have ice cream after the meet,
Yeah.
you know, because I was like, well, I might buy a Leo, but I'm not giving her $1,000. It was funny. But yeah, I think there's not a level 10 gymnast mother that um, hasn't figured out how to allow the gymnast to do what they need to do because there's not none of us people will accuse us of being crazy, but we're not because
Mhm.
there's no way we would want our children to go through what they have to go through to do this, you know.
Right.
And so you guys do figure it out on your own. But anything else you want to add, Izzy? It's been such a great experience having you here. And then also, I want you to, I'm so excited to see what you do in the next chapter as you
Yeah.
graduate and as you know, I still want you to work with me because I think we have a lot to do. But in the meantime, I'm excited to see what you do as you move forward with all these strategies and tools. Anything else you want to add?
Um, no, I don't think so, but thank you, Stacy, for not just today, but for the last like 12 years and instilling all those mental strategies in me that not only have taken me a level above in gymnastics, but in my real life too, as I'm now starting to realize as I'm entering it pretty soon. So thank you.
Yeah, are you gonna be able to be home on the boat this summer?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
Okay, good. We have that goal beyond the goal beyond the goal, right?
Yes.
All
Yes.
right. Well, thanks so much for being here. You take care and I'll have you back whenever you want.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, see you later. Bye-bye.